All right, let's talk about this first tip about creating structure. So this is part of designing your life around your writing. In a minute, I'm going to show you my calendar. But the really important thing I think that we need to do as writers, if we are serious about writing, is to put it first in our life and in our schedules. And one of the ways to do that is to get very, very clear on your best time of day for writing and schedule it on your calendar that way. One of the things that I've learned as a coach is that we have to do the hard stuff first. And writing, in many ways, is the hard stuff. Even if we love it, even if it flows naturally, even if we don't have any problems with writer's block or creative blocks or anything, it's still hard in the sense that a lot of resistance comes up around it. There's a lot of procrastination. It's easy to put off. And yet, if we are called to write on that deep soul level, if we're not doing it, it's very, very painful. There's a high cost. There's a high level of anxiety. There's a level of discomfort that we're not meeting what we're here to do. And so aligning that kind of deeper soul's calling with our actual practical life on a daily basis is what makes a huge difference. And what I found is that once I did that, once I changed my life to make my writing first, I felt this huge sense of relief and calm that was completely unexpected and quite delightful. Because when I was doing my writing first in the day, then everything else felt like bonus time. So put your writing first in your life and your schedule. Get clear on your best time of day for writing and schedule it on your calendar that way. And also, I want to submit to you this notion of experimenting with writing first thing in the morning. I decided to make that an experiment for myself because I was just hearing about so many writers who were writing first in the morning. Like they would get up at 5 and write. I thought, well, what is this all about? And I am not a morning person. I like to stay up until 11 or 12 and sleep in until 8:30. And having a kid kind of changed that a little bit because there's some practical things where kids just seem to wake up earlier, right? But I really, if I had my druthers, I would sleep in. And so this whole idea seemed really crazy, and yet I thought, you know what, I just have to try it and see what happens. And so I started setting my clock for 6 o'clock in the morning and getting up and getting to my desk by like 6:10, 6:15 at the latest, and writing. And what I found was that it was huge in terms of, again, that kind of soul-level relief. And it was also very helpful in terms of any kind of resistance or fear or doubt coming up around my writing. I would find that I could jump in much more quickly when I would just get going right away. And if I was waiting until later in the day, for a long time I was writing at 9 o'clock. I'd take my son to school and then come home and write. And I'd find lots and lots of other things to do before I would start. And it was very uncomfortable. And so making the shift to writing first thing in the morning, literally before I did anything else, aside from making a trip to the bathroom, it just made everything so much easier. So I really want to encourage you to experiment with that. And then like Julia Cameron says, once you've set your time, suit up, shut up, and show up. I love that. It's like, you know, we're here to do the work. There's a lot of talking about writing. I spent a lot of time talking about writing before I was really doing it. And actually doing it is really the key. I also wanted to just mention this myth that we need to be in the right mood to write. A lot of people feel like they've got to be in the right mood before they can start writing. I'm going to submit to you that that's a myth. I'm also going to suggest that you challenge it and test it and see if it's really true. I have found for myself that the more willing I am to just get up and write and do it, the less I need to be, quote-unquote, in the right mood. I find myself becoming, or let's see, how do I want to say it? I find myself in the right mood once I have written, if you will. So I really want to encourage you to experiment with that. I also want to show you my calendar. This is how I went about creating the structure in my life. Because the other piece of this, too, is that for a lot of us who work from home, like many writers do, or like in my case, I'm an entrepreneur that works from home and I'm a writer, I have a lot of open time. I schedule myself with clients, so I have some structure in that sense. But there's a lot of wide open days, and I actually really like that, but I was finding that I was spending a lot of time procrastinating in those days or putting off my writing, like I was talking about. If I had that really open time, there's nothing to push up against. So I found that I really had to make the structure. And in my calendar, I have my sacred writing time, which is my morning writing time, first thing, scheduled from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And it's approximate. You know, I do have a kid, so I allow a little flexibility there. Anywhere between 6 and 6:15 to start is fine. And I write for an hour, and then I take back over with the kid while my husband goes to work. And I write consistently in the morning, Sunday through Friday. And the reason I write on Sundays in the morning also is that I found that if I wasn't getting up early on Sunday morning, then Monday was pretty brutal, and I was having a really hard time getting started. So I found that if I let myself sleep in on Saturday, make Sunday a little more mushy, it works out really well. And then I have some other writing time scheduled throughout my week as well, where I try to have longer chunks of time. I still break those up, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but having those bigger chunks of time throughout the week helps as well. I don't know if you can see this clearly from my schedule or not, but I have my clients scheduled on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you're someone who has a situation like this, it might be valuable to notice this idea of having public days and private days can be very, very helpful for people like me and many writers who are more introverted or more sensitive. It's great to batch what we're doing so that we're spending time doing the things that are public, or and by public I mean interacting with other people, versus the more quieter alone time with the writing.